And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of the Jade Mechanic Podcast. I'm sitting here tonight with a fellow podcaster, which is not the first time that I've done that, but this is kind of a special person. This is somebody that I picked up little things on how to do it and what I wanted my podcast to sound like. So I'm sitting here with Sean Tipping, ladies and gentlemen. So Sean, how are you tonight, man?
I'm doing really good. Thank you, Jeff. A lot of people call me special, but it's usually not in a good way. So thank you. But thanks for having me on. I've been a listener of your show for a while now, and you got some good stuff. I've really enjoyed some of the talks that you have.
Talking about it. I mean, sometimes you just wing it, right? Like, I mean, I don't, and I mean, like I've had Matt on, right? And I've talked with Matt where, like, I'm not at you guys' level in terms of the technical stuff. I don't have enough interesting case studies and stuff to talk about every week, or lessons or whatever, or going down, the rabbit hole on this type of theory or whatever. So people would like not, I'm not their guy for that. You guys I've got that on lock, the technical stuff. It's great to listen to.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, it's definitely not the best medium for like a technical case study, particularly the ones that don't have any visuals. So that makes it challenging. And I don't know, maybe why most people avoid doing it that way, but it was kind of an interesting challenge in order to explain something without pictures or videos or whatever. Not always possible. Sometimes, hey, you got to see it. Look at this little thing. It does this when it moves, right? But trying to go through it and get the information across to the listener makes you think a little bit more, which I've enjoyed, kind of thinking through the vehicles that way.
Yeah, and so for people that maybe aren't aware, Sean's been a teacher at one point for actually teaching automotive to people, kind of like the same idea as Paul Danner. And so I was going to ask Sean, was it tough to transition from doing that in a classroom with a bunch of teaching aids to trying to just do this medium?
Yeah, yes and no. I will say the experience being in front of people and talking and trying to help people understand something that maybe they're brand new to, or they don't understand very well, helps with exactly what I was referencing, is like, how do I explain this thing maybe within a limited capacity, right? Again, you got to remember these students, a lot of them have never done any of it before. So you got to back off of your 20 years of experience a little bit and really step it down to like, let's get these basic building blocks. And somebody had said to me, along the way, like, you don't really understand a concept unless you can explain it as simply as possible, or in its simplest context possible. And that is, teaching with students. That's quite true. So that helped me with the podcast to be able to break stuff down that way. But yes, being able to use a PowerPoint or hold a part in your hand or bring somebody out to the car, you have much more of an advantage there to get the point across. And I guess what I had kind of hoped or relied on is a lot of the listeners of the show had some working experience to pull from. Like if you're fresh, I think I actually had a review on the podcast that said exactly this. Like, if you're not in the industry, you're not doing this, good luck listening to this. Is going to be gibberish to you, which, hey, I fully understand. It is what it is. It's a niche thing that, is for specific people that want to listen to that nerd stuff. So
for sure. So kind of give us a little background on yourself. Because, I mean, I kind of know it, and people that follow you for a long time know it, but just bring us kind of up to speed on, because it's been an interesting adventure for you to get to kind of where you are, right?
It sure has. Yeah. Life is never short of surprises and twists. And that's definitely true. Yeah. I been in the automotive field my whole career, went to tech school, got out in the independent. I tried a dealership 6 months, hated it, went back to the independent.
What brand dealership?
Toyota.
Okay.
Nothing against Toyota. It was just like, hey man, you're going to be on the lube rack for, 2 years, and then you can do brakes, and then another 2 years, maybe coolant flushes. I'm like, nah, I want to go pull engines tomorrow. So I went to an independent shop that just let me get in there and break stuff. And that's what I wanted to do. I was at Firestone for 7-8 years before I started teaching. And then I taught at the tech school that I attended for 5 years. And while I was teaching, I started up a mobile diagnostic programming gig
Hmm.
during the summer because we get the summers off, and which is nice at first, but then I got bored and I wanted to stay attuned with the industry, right? Like
Right.
I'm trying to teach this stuff, and we've all had teachers that haven't touched a car in 10,
Yes.
20 years, and you can tell,
Yeah.
even if you can't, it's not good for your learning experience. So I wanted to stay in it. I wanted to stay fresh and at least like kind of have my finger on the pulse of like what's out there, what are techs facing. So, I'm watching guys on YouTube and Facebook do the mobile thing. I'm like, I'm going to give it a try. And over the course of the 4 years or so while I was doing both, the the mobile thing took off, and I kind of just had to make a choice between the two because I couldn't keep doing both. Not well. It's too much, getting pulled in too many different directions. And so I chose the mobile, and it was tough. It was not an easy decision. I sat down with a giant pros and cons list and went back and forth. I could have gone either way. Like
Yeah.
different life circumstances, I probably would have chose the teaching, but I was in a spot where like rolling the dice was available to me, right? I didn't I could risk a little bit, and hey, it is what it is because a business is definitely a little riskier than working for the state of Minnesota.
I was just going to ask. So, can I? I don't want to be really nosy, but was the financial about equal, or was it like really helping you make a decision based on? Because I don't know what it's like to be a teacher in the States, but like up here, it's like a six-figure gig. Once you get about 6 years in. But I mean, I've heard in the States, it's not like that.
It is definitely not like that. Take a zero, like
Wow.
like six, you're making like 60,000 at
Yeah.
where we were at. So here's the thing: if you take the benefits into account of what you get in addition to the pay, probably about equal, but it's not exactly monetary, right? So it's not
Right.
in your bank account, but like the health benefits and the like all of that is amazing. Like it
Yep.
was the cheapest health insurance that I've ever had. You get 3 months off in the summer. And that
Yeah.
alone, I think that was like the biggest thing where I'm like, am I really sure that I want to give this up? But I was working anyways during the
Yeah.
summer. So,
Yeah.
but that flexibility is absolutely fantastic. And then you get a pension too, which I don't know how it is in Canada, but you can't find too many places that still have like a pension intact that you can actually get at the end of your
Yeah.
career. So I think if you added all that stuff up, and then maybe you did work a little bit in the summer, yeah, you're gonna do all right as
Mhm.
a teacher. So it definitely wasn't the only factor, but I think back to what I was mentioning, is a little bit like the teacher was definitely the safe route. Like I had the technical tenure for the college that I was teaching at, and you got a career till you want to be done, or you do something really stupid, but you just kind of you can do your thing at whatever level meets that minimum bar, and nothing's going to
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
But the business is a little different. You got to show up every single day and hope for the best. But that's kind of exciting, and that's what drew me in. Honestly, it's that thing that gives you a little bit of butterflies in your stomach. Like I've always kind of been drawn to that.
Yeah. You seem like the person that likes to be challenged for sure.
Yeah,
So
right,
I
right.
can totally get that. What? So you go out on the mobile route programming diag. You start to go to these shops that we all talk about, right? These shops that you show up and sometimes you're like, wow, they're fixing cars here, or they're doing diag. And then I mean, was it like you kind of hit the ground running and had a good reputation, or did you really have to struggle to build that up?
The way that I did it really benefited that initial growth period of the business where I was still teaching.
Mhm.
So I
Okay.
had a full time gig to keep me busy and occupied, and you know my
Yeah.
finances flowing. And so it was slow going, but I wasn't really pushing it super hard either. I would go to the shops by my house and I drop off my card and here's what I can do. And
Yeah.
get a few calls here and there. But it was about a couple of years of that. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I could be doing this full time now. And it was pretty organic. And,
Nice.
and I think, really it's just quality of work. You got to be able to get out there and deliver results,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to diagnostic, right? I mean, obviously programming, but especially when it comes to diagnostic, like you got to show up and be able to give them an answer.
Yeah.
But if you can do that, like you're going to have more work than you know what to do with. And that's what's has worked out for me in that realm so far.
Now, what's it like in the wintertime
It
to go
sucks.
and do multiple? Yeah, I was going to
uh,
say because you're in Minnesota, I'm here. We were just
yeah.
talking before we started hit recording, and we were talking about our lack of snow, which is unseasonably light, but yet it's frigid cold where you are,
Hmm.
frigid cold where I am too, and you're actually a little farther north than me. That's the weird part. Everybody thinks like Canada, but Minnesota is actually higher up above the equator
Uh-huh.
where I am in Ontario. So I mean, I can certainly relate to how cold you are. So does it like are they good about letting you into the shop and you kind of get, or are they making you work in the parking lot?
Yes. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have to press the issue a little bit
Mhm.
sometimes. And like there's one today, they were not able to get this car inside for XYZ reason, which is
Right.
whatever. But I was like, call me when it's inside because today was brutally cold and windy, and no way, not doing it. I messed around with that when I was first going with it, like, oh, this one will be quick and easy. I'll just, whatever. And sometimes they are, but then that's the expectation. So we drew a
Yes.
line in the sand the last couple of years of like once it's below freezing, like once that it will snow and stay snow, we're not doing diagnostics outside. Programming can be different. We do request that they're inside, but like we have ways that we can be in our van and
Yeah.
program a
Yeah.
vehicle. So that's not the end. It's not optimal, but it's not the end of the world. But no diagnostics unless they're in the shop. And the easy thing is just to ask them like, hey, are you making your guys work outside in the
Yeah.
cold?
For
And
sure.
for
Yeah.
99% of the shops, they say no. I do have a shop or know of a shop that their guys work outside when the shop's full, which is absurd. But there's all kinds of places out there, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah. It's crazy. We were talking about how somebody was mentioning how they don't have the thermostat above 32, right? Like it's cold.
There's a shop that didn't have heat. They were using like little propane sunflower heaters on the floor of this place. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Trying to make a buck.
Oh,
That's what they're trying to do. Yeah,
oh my
it's
god.
one thing. It's one thing, like to run over and swap a battery or something like that. But I mean, when we're talking about having to like lay underneath there and look at the fuel pump driver module, right, or start
Yeah.
to go back and try. It's I find it really hard, Sean, to even concentrate when it's cold. Like it's one
Oh
thing to
yeah.
make fingers work and do what it is, but like as soon as my brain starts to go down the logical process of what am I looking at here, the cold just seems to kick me right in the head and go, "Hey, it's
Yeah.
cold," and then
It
my concentration's gone. Yeah,
it's like trying to do it when you really got to take a piss. Like your brain cannot focus. You're like, okay, I got to go do this because like sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I'm real close. I got to go. I'm like, no, just go take care of it. But yeah, when you can't feel your fingers, and I was on a intermittent no start on a Ford the other day, and it would only act up when it was out in the cold.
yeah,
And so we got to look at it when it's in its state of being cold. But it was so cold that like my equipment wasn't working correctly. My leads for my U scope were not making proper contact because it was so stupid cold out there. So
yeah.
I can't wait for March or April to roll around. So
What what seems to be the one thing when you're going like, and I'm not looking for the answer to be like fundamentals because I mean that's so broad scoping, but I mean, what's tripping up a lot of the shops that you're having to get called in for? You know,
I mean, I've got parasitic draws coming out of my ass right now, but
yeah,
anything network related, a lot of guys will just they don't even try. They just hey, it's a U code. Just call Sean. He'll come take
Right.
care of it.
Yeah.
Those are the big things, but we have quite a range of different stuff, and a lot of the shops we go to, it's a few parts maybe have been thrown at it, and that didn't fix it, and hey, we've got a pile of other vehicles that need to be fixed. Let's
Right.
just have them solve it instead of spending X amount of time on it. But yeah, lots and lots of electrical.
Yeah.
That's the majority of. I mean, we don't take on like cooling system or
Yeah.
suspension noise or anything. Like we just, no thanks, we're good on that. But the stuff that is challenging shops, I think, is and has been for quite a while,
I can
electrical and network.
I can see the parasitic drain one being a common thing too, right? Because I mean, they all seem to have an attachment of a horror story to it, right? So even if it's like, because some of the ones are pretty common now. You know what I mean? Like rear wipers. How many different cars now can you look at it, and if it doesn't function, start
Well,
there.
what's
Like
interesting about parasitic draws is, I don't know if you've used Identifix before. A lot of our shops do, and we have it as a service info too. And so, like, if you have a car and you type in a P0442, you'll get like 3 or 4 different common hits, right? And one will be like, oh, there's 42 purge valves or whatever. But if you type in parasitic draw on a lot of these vehicles, the list is like this, because so many different things can cause a battery draw. And maybe it's because of the work that we're taking on, but we see a lot of one-offs too, things that would not be a pattern failure. Like I had it was a Kia Sportage. This one really kicked the shop's ass, and I get kind of why, until we found what it was, and they were like, oh boy, it wouldn't draw when they'd bring it into the shop for testing. Like they had their testing methods for this. So they'd get it in the shop, and this thing was at a used car lot. So it would sit out on the lot and it would die. Just they'd thrown thousands of dollars into this thing, batteries and alternators and radios and door handles and you name it, trying to get this thing. Still dies, still dies, still dies. And so they get it in, they're like, there's no draw on there. Are we measuring this right? Are we doing it right? And they eventually called us to take a look at it, and I did end up finding the same thing, that when it was in the shop, it wasn't drawing. It goes down to like 30 milliamps. Sweet. Okay, cool. I waited for a while. I'm like, we'll figure this out, because they were adamant that it was dying, and they have proof. I was like,
mhm.
get it to our shop. And because we have a little shop, we don't do repair, but it's home base for ADOS, and we can
Yep.
do intermittent stuff. And I just have a setup where I can hook the Pico up, and the laptop's on, connected to shop internet, and I can just remote into the thing throughout the day or night and see, hey, did this thing, is there a draw? Did the network wake up? Did the battery voltage drop?
Yep.
And we'll just set it up and wait. And we set it up and we waited and we waited and we waited. And I think it was there for like 4 days and nothing. Like it didn't even drop like a tenth of a volt. I was like, okay, well, all right. So we messed around with it a little bit more. Ended up finding out you had to lock the vehicle in order to get it to
Oh,
draw.
okay.
Like it had to be in that armed state.
Yep.
And that got us onto like digging through, okay, that's the trigger to get it to happen, but why? Is there was a body can staying awake at that point. And we went through it, and there's a hood switch there
Mhm.
that has a little rubber stopper on it, and the little rubber stopper was gone. So when the hood closes, it didn't move this hood switch. Now if the vehicle's unlocked, it doesn't care and it will go to sleep. But if it's locked, then it looks to see is the hood closed, and if it's not, it stays awake. And so when they had it in the shop, number one, they had the hood open and they had the hood switch depressed. So even if that hadn't been the case, they would have defeated the reason it was staying awake. But then they never locked it, and neither did I at first.
Yeah.
Like I flipped the door latch, but I didn't lock the vehicle. And so it took a little bit of messing around to figure that out. But when I told them, I'm like, yeah, it's just missing this little rubber stopper in the, and there's thousands of dollars of parts in this thing. But
Ah,
they were happy to get it fixed. So
yeah.
yeah, that's the sort of fun stuff we get to do.
That would it'd make you cry when you think about
Yeah.
just the cost of a radio versus a
Yeah, yeah.
radio is just one example, right? Like of what $100 switch for a hood. Like, yeah, wow.
There's a lot of wasted money. in this industry, especially when it comes to parts. For sure, it's
I
crazy,
always
crazy.
wonder, what's your take on the idea that that's most of the time the reason that that car ended up at the auction in the first place? Like that, they didn't probably make that problem right at the used car lot. Like it
Right,
wasn't like,
probably not.
yeah.
Somebody maybe did a hood, maybe it was in a collision, just didn't put
Mhm.
the little bumper in. Yeah, we see stuff that comes through the auction, and you can see, okay, this is definitely the reason that it came through the auction. This is an unsolvable problem, or something that's at least very challenging or difficult to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, auction cars, flood cars. We prep people up front, like, hey, get ready to drop some dough. We'll help you work through it, but it's not going to be cheap.
Mhm.
I got a Corolla right now that's a flood car.
Oh,
Water was up to the dash, and it's been it's been worked on and slash sitting for 2 years. I got a stack of paperwork like this from the Toyota dealer. I opened the trunk and there's like 8 different modules in there that have been swapped out. I was like, all right, what's your wallet look like on this one?
that's hard for me to even grasp the idea. Like it's, I understand it's a 2-year-old Corolla, but like it's still just a 2-year-old Corolla, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what's the thinking that there's ever going to be the justifiable means to an end at that? Like for the time and money expended on it, it'll be what,
Yeah.
a 3-year-old Corolla by the time it's all said and done, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then for
Yep.
what? To still have a car that was underwater? Like, yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's going to be just a disaster for its entire life. Like, what if we get it running? The shop's going to be happy, but like, you're going to have nothing but problems on that thing for its entire existence. And I mean, is there mold under the carpeting and stuff like that too? Like, ugh.
Now, you and I met this year at Apex SEMA, which
Yes,
is the
sir.
first time we'd met, which was surprising because I mean, I think you've been at Asta in the past, but we just didn't bump into each other. But you know, or
Yeah,
have
I
you?
saw you down at ASTA.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were busy. You had that nice little booth going on and everything.
Is that your
I
first time at Apex this year?
that was
Or-
that was my first time at Apex. Yeah,
yeah,
I had not been to that one before. I've been down to Vegas a couple times, but not for that show. So that was fun. It was a good experience.
that was my first time to Vegas. That's yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely a city I'm going to go back to for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to go down back in the day and hang out in Fremont Street and stuff.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be past my Vegas days now, but it's some good memories for sure. And it's quite the spectacle.
Yeah.
If you've never been, that sphere thing that they got, it's just
Wow.
absolutely wild.
We saw that. That was our last night there. We went and saw a pretty amazing show. Lucas took us all to see, which was incredible. There, it
Oh,
was kind
oh, you got to go inside of there.
of, yeah. And then
Nice.
see the big. I want to say it's IMAX, but it's beyond IMAX, right? Like a movie on. Essentially, the world comes to an end, and then is all reborn, and it was really cool, really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, very. I think it was $9 for a bottle of water. It's not cheap, but it was pretty.
Right.
Like it was easily the most amazing movie I've ever seen. In terms of the whole experience, because it's
Sure.
happening all around you, right? Like it's beyond IMAX. It's everything's behind you, in front of you. Like it's incredible.
That's
I
cool.
did get to see Fremont Street.
Oh,
In
okay.
where like Mike Allen said, go there at like 2 in the morning, and then like see it.
Yeah, you'll see some stuff. That's for sure.
I was asleep long, long before that. But what? So I guess kind of what I wanted to ask you about. You're kind of taking. You announced you're going to take a little sabbatical from your podcast.
Hmm.
So, and are you comfortable talking about why and just
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. We can definitely get into that.
let's because I mean
Yeah.
I think about it sometimes, like not that mine has become very much therapy for me. You know what I mean? Like this is sometimes when the shop is busy or the shop is like, I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall sometimes on like what it could be. Not, and again, it's not my business, right? It's not my business. Um, to come on and do these kind of interviews is very therapeutic because it's like you start to reach out and connect with people that are feeling similar things and stuff. But I also know that it is sometimes it is a demand on me, and it's a demand on yours. So you just kind of you're going to take a break from it.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a meme that I saw several years ago that said, why do guys start podcasts instead of just going to therapy? And so that brought that up when you mentioned that. But I
Yeah,
100% agree.
yeah,
The connection that I made with people, and I wouldn't say being forced to, but you're locked into, an hour plus conversation, direct one-on-one with someone, which for a lot of people, myself included, that's just not a regular thing outside of your immediate family. Maybe even that might be tough to just one-on-one with no distractions for an hour. Like, how often do you do that with people? And you get to do that weekly. And I guess that's maybe where I'll start is like, I am so grateful. I feel so lucky for the opportunity that I've had with the podcast to be able to meet and connect with all the professionals and awesome people that I have, and have made so many cool friendships and relationships with people, and gotten to go to really cool places like
mhm,
freaking Australia. Like, that's
yeah,
could never imagine like that would come from doing a podcast. So extremely grateful for all of it. And I definitely don't want it to come across as like, oh, it's so tough, I just don't want to do it anymore. It's really not that. It I always said when I first started, if it felt like it was a job to do it, that I would really consider, okay, well, do you want to keep doing this? Because for the vast majority of the time that if the 5 years that I did the podcast, was like, this is awesome. I can't wait to talk to fill in the
yes,
blank, or I can't wait to share this case study. I'm excited about it. I'm pumped. I'm thinking about it while I'm driving around in the van, and it's excitement. But over the last year or so, it it wasn't so much. It would be Sunday morning, and I'm like, what am I going to talk about today? I don't have, I didn't have the motivation to reach out to someone to get a guest on. I didn't have anything I was really excited to talk about. And so it was kind of getting forced. And I noticed that. And I don't know if the listeners did or not, very possible. But I really felt that way. And so come to the flip of the year, and I'm just like, I think I just want to step back for a little bit and just kind of see, how it feels,
mhm,
if for nothing else, just get a reset, or to, again, just kind of like, what's it like to not do this, because I've done it for the last 5 years every week. It's part of my routine. Let's just see, like, do I miss it? Do I start thinking about, oh, I should talk to this person, or oh, I really want to share this thing about this car.
yeah,
Does that start to come back? And that was kind of the reasoning behind taking a break. And the first of the year is just it's a really good time to do it. I was kind of, sitting down, with my goals and reflecting on the year, and stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's part of it too where, like, I work a lot, right? I run the business. I was doing teaching and business, and then podcasts and this and that. And I definitely tend to, fill my time with a lot of stuff.
yeah.
And one of the other things, oh, go
I
ahead.
think you're the kind of guy that spreads yourself pretty thin, and
Yeah,
are used
right, right. Whenever there's another opportunity or something to do, I manage to fill my free time. And one of the other things I was kind of asking myself in the last year is like, why are you doing that, right? And I think it's a good thing for anybody to ask themselves, if you find yourself like you're just always busy with something, and if as soon as you have free time you find something else to fill that free time, like, why are you doing that? And it might be a good reason. Like, maybe you have to, maybe you got to provide for your family, maybe you absolutely do love everything that you're doing, but you should at least ask yourself, like, why am I doing that? Why am I filling every single aspect of my free time with more work or more projects or more things that require my commitment and effort and energy. And you might find some interesting answers to that. And there's a little bit of that, kind of mixed in there for me too, that I've
Yeah,
just been.
it's because if you look, some of the really driven people that we talk about in society, they're they're trying to fill a hole. You know what I mean? And they're not making any kind of like qualms about it. They're very much going out there going like, "There's things lacking in my psyche, and I fill it up with this." You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not judging them. It's just like I'm not on here looking for, affirmation or anything like that. I just genuinely enjoy having the kind of conversations that I have. But the therapy side of it became just an absolutely unexpected byproduct of it, and it's been great. I can understand where you're coming from too, though, because I don't traditionally spend myself as thin. Like, I mean, I don't have the all the other pulls on me that you guys that are in business do, right? All the extra hours that goes to, like Mike Allen's just started one. Like, I don't know where that guy's going to find time. So it's like, for me, I look at it as like when winter's here, I want to record a bunch of episodes. And then when summer comes, I want to be like, we're 2 months where I've got 2 months worth in the bank, and then I can not even think about it. Right. And then I can kind of take my own little vacation from it. But I'm like you. Some guests are tough. Some topics that you think are going to go like killer don't. And then you're just like,
Yeah.
man, like, and then like we've talked about, sometimes you go and record one and you can't use it. The sound quality sucks. I don't know how many times I've gotten on and then somebody else either doesn't log in, they just forget. And then they call you like, they text you and they're an hour late or they're 2 hours running behind.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst.
That's like just, like
Yeah.
it's the most frustrating thing because I'm doing it on weekends. I don't normally do it on weeknights because I normally fall asleep pretty damn early and I wake up pretty damn early. So weeknights are not my jam. But when the people are, when it really starts to hit well is when it feels like it's not even work at all. But
Yep.
that's again is it takes a good guest to do that, right? Like it really does.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, when you connect with, the guest or the content, is, whatever subject you're talking about, yeah, all of a sudden you look down and you're like, "Oh man, we've been talking for almost 2 hours." Yeah, it just flies by. That's the thing, is like you want to have someone on that you really do want to explore something with or share or ask questions about. It's not just having somebody on to have somebody on. And I don't know, like I get a bunch of emails from these companies that like, hey, have so and so CEO on from business payment systems. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like, sorry, that's just, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm not going to be interested in talking to you about that. Like, I want to talk to, you know, Tommy or
Hmm.
Keith Perkins or somebody who's out there like doing really cool stuff in this space that I want to hear stuff about. So that's what I've tried to do as far as the guests go. But like I said, I was finding myself just not having a lot of motivation to reach out to people, and that I like that batching idea though. I thought about doing something like that, or it's like, okay, well, what if I just get a pile of episodes, and then you could
Yeah.
take a break on a regular basis, which might be the way to go.
And that's the thing. Like I keep saying I'll do that, and then it was like last summer. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to record at all from like July till the end of August. But then life happens, and
Yeah.
really interesting people come into your life, and are like they want to talk, and it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, let's record something. So before I knew it, I'd done 5 episodes over the course of like July, and it's like, and then they build into other things, and you can understand too the amazing thing that the networking, as soon as you start to meet with one person, right, there's always a common person that and they know, and
Yep.
you get to know them better, and it's just the circle keeps getting bigger and bigger. I love it, but I've had some guests that have been tough, and it's like the CEO thing too is like, because it's cool, you can sit down with them and they're like, they might be the CEO of, I don't know, Schumacher or something like that, right? And it's like,
Hmm.
we're not really techs, you know? So
Yeah.
you're talking to somebody, and so when you start sharing things about the industry that maybe they're not familiar with, they're looking at you like, wow, I had no idea that that's going on behind the curtain when I take my car in. Yeah, totally, you know? And then that's nice sometimes too, to be able to back up and just kind of show the what our day-to-day reality is to a
Hmm.
complete layman, right? That's nice. And then other times it's nice to get in there with people that have been through the quagmire and the muck and in the trenches the same as you, and share. That's where I get the therapy from. Is sometimes you want to just throw the tools down and go, no, I want to do something different. And then you talk to somebody, or like I'm sure yours is the same too. It's the phone blows up with people that are like, man, what you talked about helped me so much. Like I was able to fix a car by something I heard you say, or you know, that's what gets addictive to this whole thing.
Yeah. I've had a couple people over the last couple years reach out through like they do it through like a proxy, like a contact, but that are incarcerated. And uh,
Wow.
by no effort of mine, like I didn't, I don't even know how it happened exactly, but my podcast got put on the list for the like prison library systems
Okay.
so that they can listen to educational podcasts, and
Right.
mine's on there. And so a handful of guys have reached out to me just as, yeah, like basically a thank you of like, hey, I've really enjoyed your content. You know, once I, get out of here or get on a work release or whatever it is, I'm really going to be pursuing stuff in the automotive, this and that. And that absolutely just floored me. Like I had no idea that
Huge,
that's
man.
when I'm recording an episode talking about a network issue. That's not what I'm thinking the
Yeah.
listening audience is going to be. But it's like, oh wow, okay, so this stuff that I'm just sharing part of my world, but it actually is benefiting someone in some way. It's a really cool feeling, really. And again, I have a lot of like gratitude for being able to do that.
Well, and Sean, think about that. Like in that particular moment, maybe of fixing that car, it's kicking your butt, and you're struggling, and you're like, and to you, it's not necessarily a completely positive place, and yet to
Mm-hmm.
that listener, that's looking like a goal. You know what I mean? Like it's looking
Sure.
like a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
place to be. That's wow. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that. Like that's really
Someday
changed.
I can get my ass kicked just like Sean. You can.
It's like because let's look at their reality. A little
Yeah.
tiny cell somewhere, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
days off on a calendar, waiting to. Yeah, no, wow, that's pretty cool, man. I get a lot of people that are like, you know, thanks to your talks, I quit the dealership and I'm going to work in an independent. Like I get a lot of those messages, and that's pretty cool.
Yep.
But
Well,
you
oh,
know,
sorry.
yours that trumps it for sure, because there's somebody in a really in a crappy place
Well,
that's
the
going.
the message I've heard from your show, from listening to it, is like if you're in a crappy situation, just leave, go somewhere else. And like that alone is the message that a lot of people, techs, and even just anybody in this industry
Yeah,
needs to hear at one point or another in their life or in their career. And I know I did when I was younger too. I stayed in a situation in a shop that was terrible for way too long because there was no podcast or YouTube back then, but like I didn't know what was out there. I just assumed it was all the same or even worse.
yeah.
And that's what the automotive industry was. And my gosh, the resources and transparency that's available for people in the field right now is fantastic. Yeah, like it's so good. So that it is really cool that you're able to put stuff like that out there for people.
Well, because I mean, it's worked for me. You know what I mean? Like I've not the ton. I have not stayed in a long term employment. Like I look at these guys that have worked in the same shop for 20 years, right? Like I have friends that have done it, and part of me is envious of that, and then part of me is like, God, there had to be like, how did you do it? How did you do it?
Yeah.
And because I'm not saying everybody should constantly move, but it's just like you have to go in every day excited to go. And if you don't, it's not the place for you. And there's other places to be. There's so many jobs out there right now. It's ridiculous ridiculous. And you just kind of have to just, decide where you fit. I keep
Hmm.
saying, I'd never go back to a dealer. That's that's a stretch for me because if the right one called and threw a bunch of money at it, I might be like, sure, why not? Let's try it. Work on some brand new stuff. Again, like learn a new product. Like, why not try it out?
Where are you working right now?
I'm working at a little 4 bay shop. It's just myself, the owner, and one other tech, and it's a little 4 bay. It's an old shop. It was built in 1981, so like the floors are. It's built like an old shop. It's built like they didn't realize that toolboxes were going to go bigger and people were going to get parts, and all the flooring, Sean, used to have the in-ground hoists, and like they came in and if one's still left, and like so the floor's been all filled in and it's like crooked and
Yeah, yeah, sure.
not the brightest, but well tooled up. He has a lot of customers with European cars, so it's like I haven't hardly touched them, and now it's like I'm touching Mercedes, BMWs, like Volkswagen. So it's like I'm like, oh man, and you know what? It's good. It is. It is
Yep.
good. It's it's more exposure. It is more
Uh-huh.
exposure. I like it. I like the independent side of things of being able to like people are not coming in and saying, fix my Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? Like they're like my car's broke. I need my car fixed. That's what I enjoy doing. Don't send me down rabbit holes of really weird stuff. That's like, can you get to work today? Yeah, okay. So your Wi-Fi on your car. Well, it's hard for me to relate to that. It really is.
Yeah.
But it's one of those old shops. Old shops are hard to work in. They are. They're small. They're when I look at Zeb's facility, or I look at like if you ever see Lucas's, like it's so cool when they're built with room and well lit and big, and but my shop that I'm in now is probably typical of what a lot of shops that you go to and see, or a
Yep.
lot of us work in, small, old, and it's just you make the best of it. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for what he's been able to teach me, not teach, but the exposure I've got to other brands that I haven't been working on. I spent, it was kind of a make work project on a 2006 smart, 4.2, putting it back together for like this guy. It sat for 3 years, and it's like, he wants to decide you have to safety it. So, I mean, it's like brakes, suspension,
Uh-huh.
the little shift motor underneath it shifts it back, an oil pan, like all these kind of just I never worked on one of them in my life, and I'm looking at this going, what the hell? Like,
We just did a TCM on one the other
yeah,
day, and I hadn't yet to program anything, and I knew they were Mercedes,
yeah,
tied or based or whatever, and they're like, "Can you do a used TCM because a new one does not exist on the
oh,
in the
yeah.
country?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know, but we'll try." And we were able to make it work and get it going. He was pretty pumped, but yeah, those things were
Well,
absolutely
that's
wild.
there's no parts left hardly available for this at all. Like we were looking for just to do struts on the front struts, like trying to piece together like you can get coils, but you can't, and you can get struts, but you can't get the bushings on the top, like all this weird stuff, and then like the little shift motor that shifts it in the because it's like a standard, but it's not. You know what I mean? That
Mhm. It's like a Ford Focus.
yeah, it's like it's obsolete. So we're trying to find a used one, and the customer's trying to find one, and it's like we've put 5 grand into this car for safety wise, and we're still waiting to get to where can we get it to shift. Like
Yeah.
it's what people have attachments to these cars. I don't understand. You know, that's the weird thing, but you know,
You
I
you
can
fi
understand Mercedes or BMW, but a smart is like,
you
yeah,
find that with the old European stuff is,
yeah,
people really do get attached to those vehicles. They want their O2 Jetta to run forever. It's like, "Why? Go buy a new one."
that's right. Go get a 2010 Jetta, like if you really want to step up, like what's what's the cars when somebody calls you and they say I have this, what's the ones that make you like wince and roll your eyes and rethink life?
Intermittence. That's
It
the
doesn't
bane of my
matter.
existence. Just because of the way, like, we have it structured with mobile and time, and they suck. They really do. And depending on how intermittent it is or the conditions, like we could be there for 3 hours and not get it to happen. And if it's like a module talking, you're screwing up a bus and there's 20 modules on there,
Yeah.
and we can't just guess at something. But what do we do with that 3 hours of our time? Like, well, we really should be charging them. And I agree with that as a business owner. But guess what? Now we own that freaking vehicle, right? As long as it has problems, guess who's getting a call wanting us back? So we we try to avoid them as
Mhm.
often as we can, or we tell the shop, hey, once you can duplicate it on a consistent basis and you don't have an answer, then just call us, we'll come figure it out.
Yeah.
And we do have some pricing for them if they want to drop it at our shop and say, hey, we'll get to it when we get to it. Be patient and we'll see what we can do. But yeah, those are the ones that it can definitely screw the day up, or we're
So
just like,
it's not a brand for you, it's a symptom.
yes, 100%. Yeah. As far as brands go, eh, yeah, some of the European stuff can be a pain. Um, the newer Mercedes, like I don't have Sentry, so some of the
Okay.
newer stuff we can't do. But yeah, other than that, nothing stands out as a problem. It's intermittent or it's really old stuff. Like if I got a call on a 95 Riviera the other day, which actually I don't mind that car. I got a soft spot for the supercharged 3.8, but it's like when we get a call on something from the 90s, you're like, okay, how many people have been through this before we touched it?
Yeah. Right. What's
Uh,
you kind of heard the recent conversation that popped up last week, and I wanted to reach out and get as many people's opinions on this as possible. When Mike Allen was talking about, somebody and Brian Pollock, and $3,000 have been spent on this car and it didn't get fixed, and somebody fixes it in a half an hour, finds that it's the ground. You know, what's that value? What's the value worth? What's the value of that repair? What's your take on that? Because I kind of said, well, Dutch has his opinion, but Brian and I have talked for years about those kind of scenarios because we've been sharing back and forth, and I said, well, it's a lot closer to $3,001 than it really is to $300, in my opinion, of the value of that. Like, what do you think about that? Because you're on both sides, right? Like, you see,
sure. I mean, I think that depends. There's some context there that's important because it depends on who was spending that $3,000 on what. Because, like, I could give my service writer Mike, who, no offense to Mike, he's fantastic, he's awesome, but like I could give him one of the cars and say, hey, diagnose it and fix it, and he could spend $3,000 in a hurry with
right,
parts. Right, that Kia that I mentioned, they easily had $3,000 into that one. Maybe that one's a different scenario, but someone who's inexperienced or not really trying, or insert reason X, that is not doing it professionally, not really putting an effort into it, or just doesn't have the skill set, that wasted money doesn't necessarily equal the value of the fix in my mind.
right,
But if it's a situation where people really genuinely have been putting hours of time into it and can't solve it, okay, well now the value of that fix goes way up, even if it's quick, right? And we have internal documentation, right? We keep all the stuff for the diagnostics, even the programming and the keys that we do. We will document stuff like it's a 2014 Ford Fusion. We had an open LIN bus wire here above the headliner. It looks like a common wear point. We put that in there. It's like a built-in identifix for us so
mm-hmm,
that in the future we can have one of those. We can show up and just be like, pull the headliner down. Oh, there's that open wire. Okay. And
yeah,
we are definitely charging the full diagnostic fee, even if it's 5 minutes to do it. We have plenty of those, and I have no qualms about charging a full price just because it was, I don't know, easy or simple, because the effort's been put in beforehand. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like it's all about the situation too. There are situations where it's like, okay, we don't need the the full diagnostic price for, this particular one. Uh, Maybe I'm more of like a judgment call kind of guy when it
Okay.
comes to that sort of stuff. And I probably could do better by having some like hard lines in the sand. But like, what did I have the other day? Oh, it was the PTO was on this truck.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're familiar, it'll limit acceleration on these Chevy trucks when the PTO switch is on. And that's normal operation, right? Because it wants to keep the engine limited in some way. A shop didn't realize it or didn't know that that was the thing. And they had like throttle bodies on it and they're doing this and they're doing that. And they had all kinds of money in there. And I kind of knew, like, I had a feeling when they called me on the phone. And when I got there, I just looked in on the PTO switch and flip it. And, but I've been through it before. But
Right.
I talked with them and we didn't do our full price. I basically just did my show up fee for that one. Now, hey, an argument could probably be made that, like, yeah, you should have charged your full fee on that. But in that situation, I was just like, click. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
So it's funny, right? Brian and I talk about this because a lot of the time you'll see the customer will bounce from shop to shop and it winds up, say, at the fourth one. And they've
Okay.
spent 500 at each one, right? And they've never gone back to even get the money that they've spent back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for whatever reason, their money is not the I'm sure nobody wants to go spending money that doesn't fix things, but it almost seems like in their head, I think sometimes the customers just think that's part of the process, right? Like it's not uncommon to have to go around and try. So when Brian and I talk about this, and it's like they've spent 500 here and 500 there and 500 there. Well, if I go and fix it in an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and but I have a $500 retainer, why why is it people look at that and go, that's crazy to charge them $500 or $300 or whatever it is to do an hour and a half worth of work?
Sure.
Because when and he always says, well, they've spent $1,500 that didn't fix it.
Sure.
And yet, so is he a unicorn? Sort of, yes, very much so, right? Like there isn't one of him in every shop, unfortunately. The industry would be a lot better. But when you think about what he made a great point with Dutch. I could do this job. I could do ball joints, and I could do 4 ball joints. Would pay 6 hours. I could have it done in 3 hours. Right? I've cut my time in half. Plus, I
Yep.
build parts. What he's going to do most of the time is not really build parts. Right? It's going to be clean a ground, run an overlay, find the pin fitment issue, whatever. Why does that mean that he can't charge $500 to fix it when somebody else would have only charged them 500 and didn't fix it? And I see both sides, and I'm really stuck with it because it's like we know the customer's not going to go back most of the time and take them to court or get their money back or
Mm-hmm.
even try. They just go, bah, it's the ship's sailed. I'm not going to get it. That's where I think sometimes is that we can charge a whole lot more for our diag than what we are, because I feel like I want to feel most of us out there can get through a lot more diag than we're getting through. We're just running out of time. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I was going to ask you, like, do you see when you go to some of these and you look at them, like, I know some of them, like, we're talking the intermittents or whatever, or the parasitic drains and stuff, but like, do you see their, like, do you go to some of them and like they were on the right track? They just pulled the plug on them too soon?
Yeah. I mean, well, here's one thing that it's like every day is they made the right call, but then they got a shitty part, right?
Yeah.
That happens all the time, and maybe it's a different system, maybe or a symptom, but maybe it's the same symptom as the other part. I
Yeah.
mean, that'll make me second guess myself, and a lot of times, it's just they need that like confirmation, like, hey, did I make the right call? I couldn't talk to this steering angle sensor, and then I can't talk to this one. Yeah,
Right.
sorry, man, it's just a bad sensor. But yeah, to your point about the charging for diagnostics, it is tough, and I think a lot of people get their stuff fixed at places where parts have been thrown at it, and 75% of the time that works out good. And well, I didn't pay for diagnostics, or the diagnostics were free, that whole thing. And so, yeah, a lot of people don't quite understand. I don't know how else to, get it across to to people, individual customers. I don't work with them too often because I'm just working with the shops, but a situation where bouncing around from shop to shop to shop and spending a bunch of money before you finally find somebody, okay, this guy can just tell me what's wrong. That usually will be, they're not going back after that. They're gonna come to you. They're not gonna go back to the parts canon too often.
So Brian and I had a conversation about that. What about when it becomes a distance thing, Sean? Like when, so like for instance, at his shop, they could be 2 counties away, and they
Mm,
finally, hey, like they're in the state, like they get over there. Or you see Ivan on Pine Hollow, like they bring him,
yeah.
God, they bring him cars from Virginia for God's sakes. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
state away. And I
Yeah.
get it, like it's the guy's a genius, but I mean, part of that I think too is it's like he's managed to get this he's managed to get his name out there to where people think he's the only guy that could fix this. And then I watch it and I'm like, man, they told that past 10 other shops that like I'm
Could
sure
probably
have,
do it.
that have a guy that could have figured that out, for
Hmm.
sure. Um but Brian and I talk about like if it becomes a certain distance, they're not going to drive like Brian said. I'm not going to be able to sell them tires. They're 2 hours away from me. Or I'm not going. They're not going to drive 2 hours for my brake when their brakes start to make noise. They're going to wind back up at that shop again. That
Sure.
that they maybe now have learned the lesson. Like, hey,
Hmm.
I got a check engine light. Like, okay, I can go to Firestone for my whatever, but like I might have to go to Wilco for anything that's. But
Yeah.
because I made the assertion with him that it's like the word retainer. Nobody liked that word. But when you think about it, the labor guide always then is a retainer in some form. Like they're saying ball joints are going to be 6 hours. So you've at least retained 6 hours labor for that job. And then we
Sure.
run it through a matrix and everything else. We get into this diagnostic stuff. There is no guide about how long it should take to troubleshoot this problem. And no two
Hmm.
techs are going to go exactly the same way. Like we can all have a similar process, but like intuition and instinct and like you said, you might know that I've had a fusion with a headliner rub there and I pull that down and I check that first. 10 other people maybe don't have never seen that. You may go there first for the 10 minutes it takes. It was a no-go, no fish bit. Okay, go on to the next thing. But if we add all that up, that's how we get our different amounts of time that some of us take to get to the same result, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's where I think we sometimes unfairly judge a lot of people that are doing diag because it's like, oh, I'd have found that so much faster.
It's so we've struggled with that too. Having now they have multiple technicians and we're all different and we've all got a different skill set and different process and experience and so on and so forth. So yeah, there's going to be a different speed. There'll be a lot of different stuff, but one of them is definitely the speed of it. And it'll depend on what we're working. It's not always one person faster than the other. Always, it depends on what we're doing. And so, eh, instead of billing by the hour for the diagnostics, we made a tiered system, which you could say, I guess, is kind of like that retainer. Is we got 3 levels, and the price at each level is this, and based off of the type of problem that you're describing to us, it's probably going to fit into one of these tiers, right? If it's a parasitic draw, it's here. If it's a network problem, it's here. If it's
Right.
basic electrical, this, and so we have that broken down and we've shared that with our customers, and it's not perfect. And there's always, well, what if it's this situation? And we leave room to go up or down in the tiers too, right? We get into it. We thought it was going to be some complex network problem. It was just pin fitment at the DLC.
Yeah.
So that does that need to be a tier two? Probably not necessarily, but the opposite is true as well. Oh, we've got a tire pressure warning light on, and all of a sudden it turns into a CAN
Mhm.
bus network issue, right? But communication's key there. Of like, hey, we've got to step it up to this level. Are you guys okay with that? If not, we'll give you the information we've found so far. It's X amount, and we'll head out, or we can continue for X amount. And most of our customers are okay with that. Again, we're dealing with shops, we're dealing with other business owners, and
Yeah.
most of them, get it. I can I can sympathize on the public customer side of things only from my experience when I was still in Firestone and doing that. But the diagnostic stuff, it is really tough. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, it's not going anywhere, and it's only going to get more. These cars are absolutely wild that are coming out. I was just working on a 22 Wagoneer. Good
Oh,
freaking luck to the independent world trying to fix these things, man. They are going to be it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know. I see a lot of cars just going to be
I
getting thrown away because people don't want to deal with them anymore.
yeah. The guys in the dealerships I know curse those things, Wagoneers. They were just
Well, this one was a frame off restoration job where harnesses were spliced together, and oh my gosh, it was absolutely wild. It, actually, the hardest part about it though was one of the rear air springs,
okay.
for the air suspension. The way those work is, you probably are familiar. They've got like a brass fitting on the top of the spring that's like a valve, and the line goes in and depresses the valve. Once the line's tight, it opens up this one-way check valve to the air spring. But only if the little airline is deep enough into that valve does it depress the valve. It had gotten pushed up. It's just like a little compression fitting that actually threads on this airline. And so, although the line was tight, you tighten the fitting, it was never depressing the check valve. And air could go in, but air never came out of this spring. And
Right.
it was just absolute nightmare trying to get this thing to calibrate after we had gotten all the other problems solved. But yeah, you just had to move the line down a little bit, and it opened up the valve. And
Something simple. So I gotta ask, and I won't keep a ton of your time because I mean we could talk for hours, but I, I know you're busy. When you talk about bringing younger people in and other people that are coming in now to work with you and kind of stuff, the guys that are doing diagnostics, what still seems to be the one thing that trips them up, or where they kind of go, "Oh, why didn't?" I know for me, I still get bit on pin fitment, right? I think that that's a lot of guys go
yeah,
like they do their circuit checks and it's like, but why is it still not working? Jack Horn, go back and check your pin fit. Like is that am I the only one, or is that kind of
no.
where are you seeing other guys
I mean,
miss?
pin fitment is a tough one, especially if it's a really solid connector, meaning that I could wiggle that thing all day and it will never change the open or not open status of that circuit. It is a pin fitment issue, and so yeah, I'll send you a link if you don't have them. It's like a $20 ring
Okay.
of pins that you can get, and all the different sizes. What was really nice is they're solid. Like, I have the AAC wave test kit, and they're flexible, and you can do your pin drag with those. No reason you can't. But these are solid, so you can really get a good feel for if there's drag or not. Anyways, that's besides the point. As far as what guys are getting tripped up with, or like what we see our guys get tripped up with, honestly, a lot of the time it's maybe it plays into like an unfamiliarity on a vehicle platform or scan tool platform, but like little stuff like a scan tool glitch of some sort leading someone down the complete wrong path, meaning that it's giving you an inaccurate piece of data. And you've relied on this scan tool for a lot of stuff, and it's been great for a lot of stuff, but it
Yeah.
is showing you a wrong data PID in this situation and sending you on a wild goose chase, or not clearing codes when
Oh,
there really is no code. If you would have used another tool or the factory tool, would have cleared the code out of there fine, but this tool just doesn't for whatever reason. That sort of stuff for us, you can waste a lot of time because there's not really a problem, right? Or the problem isn't what you think it is, and you're chasing ghosts. That's definitely been a tough one, and I can't predict that, right? I can tell you electrical theory and I can build a process for finding an open or a short or resistance, whatever, but I can't prepare you for every single software glitch that every scan tool is going to have or not have. A lot of times I'll just be like, "Hey, is it a scan tool thing?" And okay, that's what I do. I'm like, something just seems weird here. Let me grab the other one and put it on here and see if it does the same thing. But that's just experience and getting your butt kicked on
I was
something
just
like
gonna say
that.
it's your school of hard knocks, right? That's sometimes how you're able to have that tidbit for somebody else later on and go, "Hey, oh, you're
Yeah.
running into that? Yeah, use the Autel on it this time instead of using
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Snap-on." Tommy Markham, my friend, talked about he hooked up to a 2014 late Equinox last week with a Snap-on, and I didn't catch the gist of whole what he was talking about, but it didn't ping all the modules in the car. And he
Hmm.
was like infuriated because it's like this is a 10-year-old GMC with a snap on.
Hmm.
If they could do it right, they would have that done. But
I I pick on Snap-on a lot, and the thing is, like every tool has their holes. I had an old Mitsubishi a month or so ago. I have a lot of scan tools. Like I have a stupid amount of scan tools. Not a single scan tool I had could program a key into this thing. It was like a 2003 or something. Like nothing. You want to know what tool programmed the key into this thing? It was a flipping Snap-on scan tool. I had to borrow it from one of my shops. I felt like an idiot. He was laughing at me. He's like, "Oh, you can borrow my scan tool, huh?" Yeah, the Snap-on is the one that did it out of all the tools. So yeah, there's that's the other thing is like you got to have so much if you want to try tackling multiple makes and models. It's just the equipment side of things is it's crazy.
hmm well, I don't want to keep you all night. I appreciate you. I just wanted to. I want to thank you for being on. I do miss you. I do miss every week, and I just want to put it out there that if you're missed, and if for whatever reason that you don't make time to come back, or if you don't come back in the same capacity, we completely understand. And I totally get where you're coming from. It is a lot. And the people that, don't do this, don't podcast like you and I don't think you truly appreciate it, what it is, the time constraint. And I say it all the time. I'm blessed. Like I have a fantastic editing team behind me. I don't have to edit my stuff. Braxton and Lucas take care of that for me. Like I just have to literally set up the stuff and go. And it's still a big time complaint or constraint. So I want to thank you for everything that you brought to us and to me, through, because like I said, I've been listening to you for a long time, and it was kind of like, you know, could I do a podcast? Well, I can't do one like Sean because I'm not that smart, but I
Well,
can,
here you are.
but I can get out there and have the conversation. So I hope to see you back, in some regard, in some way. And, we miss you out there. So, but
Thank you.
it's
Thank you. I appreciate that. And same to you. Thank you for the effort that you put in here. I know it means a lot to a lot of people, but as a small teaser, I do have some plans coming up. I'm not going to put out too much. You'll probably see some stuff over the next month or so as to, what my plans are. So
nice.
I'm not dropping it completely. And to my earlier point about just seeing how it feels. There's definitely part of it. I'm like, okay, I do miss it. I do enjoy doing it. So you'll see me around again out there.
Awesome. Are you going to Vision?
I'm not going to be at Vision this year. My tech Andrew is going to be there though.
Sweet. I'm not.
So
I'm not going either. We thought maybe for 2025, but maybe for 2026 we'll go. It's just with this new job, it's harder too as well to get time away because it's
yeah.
a smaller operation. So
Well, there's so many events too, and it's like I have to ration which one I'm going to go to because my girlfriend doesn't want all of my time off of work to be more work. So I I have to like, okay, well, I can go to a couple this year. These are the ones that I'm going to do this year, and then yeah, probably back at Vision next year.
awesome. Well, people, that's it from Sean. He's given you a little bit of a tidbit of we're gonna have him back in some capacity, which is awesome. So excellent, Sean. Thank you for giving me an hour of your time tonight. I appreciate you. And
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
yeah, we'll keep in touch. I'm dying to see what's coming up next. So
All
everybody,
right.
thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Take it easy. Bye.